Governor and Senate races have captured most of the attention. The closest race is actually the one for Agriculture Commissioner. A little more than 5,000 votes separate the two candidates.
Last week, we spoke with Nikki Fried, who is ahead right now. And all new at 7, CBS 4's Jim DeFeeti got the chance to sit down with her opponent, Matt Caldwell, to get his reaction.
A week ago, we were in the middle of an election. A week later, we're still in an election, a week after Election Day. Give me your perspectives on what the last week has been like.
Well, Jim, we're trying to figure out what the answers are. You know, we went to bed Tuesday night with a 40,000 plus lead. When you looked at what remained unreported in Broward County, there wasn't enough to change the outcome of the election. So we declared victory, went home, went to bed. And of course, over the next 4 days after that, you saw 80,000 votes come out of nowhere, essentially. And every time we would ask, where did they come from? When were they cast? And why hadn't they been tabulated? We didn't get an answer. So that's why we ultimately had to file the lawsuit. We're still trying to get down to the bottom of what really happened. You know, anybody who voted by 7 p.m. on Tuesday, their vote should count. And that's really what I'm after. Whatever the answer is, whoever the winner is of that universe of voters, that's what we need to find out, and that's what I'm endeavoring to get the answer to.
There have been some in your party who have made serious allegations claiming fraud, abuse. Do you believe that there's fraud in the Broward Elections Department?
Well, I believe that we haven't gotten straight answers. And when that happened repeatedly, when we decided to finally file a lawsuit, and it took us 3 times to serve Ms. Snipes, she refused to be served the first 2 times. Those certainly look like the actions of a guilty person, unfortunately.
But guilty of what?
Well, that's really what we can't get an answer to. Again, when you look at the scenario where you've got 80,000 votes unaccounted for their origin or their look, you go to any supervisor in the state. I say I want to see your early votes, your vote by mail, and your day of, where they were cast, when they were cast, how many there were. Those are basic questions that any supervisor can give you the answer to in less than 30, 40 minutes. Ms. Snipes still hasn't answered any of those questions about the 80,000 ballots that have shown up.
And I think you've been very measured in your comments, and I think even what you're saying here, you know, has a lot of merit in terms of just wanting to get answers. Are you concerned, though, by some of the rhetoric that you are hearing, whether it's from the President of the United States, the junior Senator Marco Rubio, the governor, in terms of calling into question the legitimacy of this election? Does that concern you at all? Do you think they've gone too far?
I think people are very, very frustrated, and I think they deserve an answer. We deserve an answer. We've worked very hard over the last 2 years, 100,000 miles traveling this state, and I think we deserve a straight answer. But look, the 8 million people that voted in this election are the ones that deserve it the most. They need to be told what the truth is, and we can't get that as long as she continues to stonewall. And the longer somebody refuses to answer basic questions, the more suspicious any person would be.
Let me ask you this. Palm Beach is saying they may not be able to finish the machine count in your race by the Thursday deadline. I'm highly doubtful that when it goes to a manual recount in your race, whether or not all the counties are going to be able to physically inspect all of the ballots by the Sunday deadline that's up. If all the ballots aren't counted either by machine or by hand on Sunday, would you want those deadlines to be extended to continue the count so that we get a true number of who voted legally and have their vote counted?
Well, there is no script for the scenario we find ourselves in. There is no allowance in law for supervisors to fail to meet their duties. Both the Palm Beach and Broward supervisor have repeatedly failed to meet deadlines, repeatedly failed to disclose information, and as testified to on Saturday in court by the Palm Beach supervisor, broke the law by replacing duplicate ballots without having the canvassing board present. So we need to get all of those answers provided before I'm satisfied with the conclusion of this. Not because.
But my question is very specific to the idea of the deadline set by the legislature that everything must be done, machine and hand recount by Sunday. If that's not physically possible, forget the incompetence that may have led to this point now. But we've never been in a situation where we've had 2 statewide races had to go to hand recount. If that's not physically possible to be done by Sunday, would you be in favor? Would you argue that that deadline should be extended so all the votes could be counted?
I think we have to finish the recount before we can conclude this race, and I think we also have to have an answer about those 80,000 ballots in Broward County that we've failed to get an answer to yet. Both of those questions, they're related, but they're not the same. But I think all of those have to be finished before we can seriously get to any conclusion on this.
So you realize, in some ways, your interest and the governor's interests are somewhat divergent. The governor is ahead in his race. You're behind in yours. I could see a scenario where the governor is arguing arguing to stop the recount with the prescribed deadline, whereas you may only be able to make up the race by having the recount extended.
Well, look, I'm not looking to win this office through some kind of legal loopholes. Again, if you voted before 7 o'clock on Tuesday, your vote should count. And whatever that decision was, whether it was a win or a loss for us, is what I'm looking for an answer to. And I think ultimately everyone else, the governor-elect, everyone's looking for a straight answer. What is the number? What's the vote count? And what was the decision the voters made? That's what I'm trying to get the answer to.
As you sit here, you're still a member of the state legislature.
No, that ended last Tuesday. The legislature, your office ends upon election night. I'm a private citizen again.
So if there's a special session, you would not go to Tallahassee?
No, sir.
Let me ask you this then, as a former legislator, do you believe there should be a special session called and have Brenda Snipes removed? Because that's one of the ways you could remove Brenda Snipes from office, is if the legislature were to reconvene and remove her for malfeasance. Do you believe that should be done?
Well, I certainly think the evidence is more than stacked up that Ms. Snipes cannot be a competent supervisor going forward. How we conclude the process we find ourselves in right now, my interest is getting the votes counted. However we do that, I'm going to certainly advocate for what makes sense, and whether or not the legislature decides to take action, I'll leave to them.
And once the recount is finished, do you believe Ms. Snipes should either be removed either by the governor, the legislature, or be forced to resign?
I don't think any reasonable person thinks Ms. Snipes can stay in the position that she's been in. I mean, the repeated failures to uphold the law just within the last 2 weeks, much less the cases we've seen earlier in the primary this year and the election in 2016 and all the problems that happened there.
Matt Caldwell, thank you very much.
Thank you.